Hello everybody, we're going to do my video in Harlingen right now. Hopefully maybe I'll have a little sign at the end. I kind of saw something a little while ago. This is close to Mexico, but I made some videos last year and I went into Mexico, but that was way on the other side going into the border of Laredo. I'm not going to go into Mexico, but I'm in Harlingen. So if I went a little further down the highway, we cross over. I've done that before. This is called the Valley. A lot of growing and stuff, okay? So today I figured I'd wait until I got to Harlingen, and that way you can see a little. It's not much to see, but I want to do John chapter 11. It's kind of a key chapter. I'll talk loud because I got a little wind. Got a brother under the tree here. In John 11, we have the story where Mary and Martha and Lazarus, this was a family that was close to Jesus. They were personal friends. People knew that. They took a risk as followers to publicly identify. A lot of people believed from a distance because you were ostracized at that time to be believing in Jesus. Now, as we've been teaching the Gospel of John, the first miracle, if you remember when I taught John chapter 2, the first miracle was the water into wine. And that's only in John's Gospel, at the wedding of Cana of Galilee. And then as you go through from chapter 2 all the way to chapter 11, that's where all of some refer to it as the book of signs. You have the 7 significant miracles and signs that Jesus does, all from John chapter 2 to John chapter 11. And the water and the wine being the first one. But then you have the feeding of the multitude, the healing of the official's son, the healing of the blind man, which would be, I think, chapter 9. That was the last significant miracle up to the one we're going to do right now in chapter 11. So you had, hello brother, so you had all of the 7 miracles in John's Gospel from chapter 2 all the way to chapter 11. What's the miracle in this chapter? Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, as a close-knit family of friends. Lazarus is sick, but he's in another town by the name of Bethany, the name of my daughter. Now there's more than one Bethany in the Bible. City, talking about a city. And they send word to Jesus, because Jesus, if you remember earlier, Jesus was no longer in Judea, by Jerusalem area, which is where this little town happens to be, where Lazarus is sick. So they got to send a message to Jesus and say, your friend who you love is sick. Why your friend Jesus who you love? Because Jesus is healing people that he has no connection with. Okay, some of the stories we read, these are just people that didn't even know who he was. The story of the blind man, even when he was healed, he said, some man named Jesus. I don't know who he was. And then later Jesus said he was the Messiah. But in this case, look, these are people that maybe they felt that they deserved Jesus to really do a healing with Lazarus because they're close friends. And the Bible says when Jesus got word that his friend Lazarus was sick, we read the same thing in the healing of the blind man. Chapter 9. It says, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God. Look, that statement would make you think that Lazarus is not going to die. And his disciples and Jesus were in another town. And the scripture says Jesus purposely waits a couple of days he doesn't go to heal his friend. And even when he's getting ready to go, as we read through John's Gospel, at one point he left that area. Okay, he left Judea. It said he didn't walk there because they were trying to kill him. But now he's going to go back. He says, our friend, and the disciples will say, that's the area you're avoiding because there was a threat there. And Jesus says, look, if any man walks in the day, he will not sleep. And if a man's walking at night, there's no light in him, he'll stumble. Jesus was saying he was on that mission, and he was going to go do something with Lazarus. And so, for that reason, in the will of God, wherever you're at, by Mexico or anywhere, that's your protection, being in the will of God. Now, he lets them know, I'll talk loud, I got one. He lets the disciples know, he says, now we're going to go and see old Lazarus, because he's sleeping. The disciples thought Jesus meant he was actually sleeping. Like, oh, well, that's good, let him sleep. Jesus, he gets to the point here. He says, no, he's dead. He's dead. Now, when he goes to the town, the two sisters, Mary and Martha, they were expecting that he would have showed up a lot earlier than that. And the first thing Martha says, if I remember right, is, why, if you were here, Lazarus, her brother, would not have died. And Mary is not there. She doesn't come to greet him at all. And this is the Mary, this chapter says, that wiped his feet with her tears. She had a history. Okay, this is where we get that from. We're going to say Mary had somewhat of a history. But she was one that loved much because there was a lot that was forgiven of this Mary. But she doesn't, this is the sister of Lazarus. She doesn't go to see Jesus. Now, Lazarus is dead. And Martha is saying to Jesus, if you just came in time, none of this would have happened. Jesus is giving her a teaching on resurrection and life. Don't you believe that your brother's going to live? I know he's going to live at the last day. See, the Jewish people believed in resurrection. I know he's going to live at the last day. The resurrection. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Right now, at that moment, he's the resurrection and the life. All who believe in him, even if they die, they now live. Don't you believe that, Martha? Don't you believe that? And you know, we don't know if Jesus asked to see Mary, because the sister Mary is not coming out to see him. But she's back at the house there in Bethany, and she's mad. And there were other Jewish people, because the city was about 2 miles from Jerusalem. So there was some other Jewish people there, leaders. This was God's purpose. And then Martha goes back to see her sister. Lazarus is still dead. And you know, Martha says, Jesus is here, and he's asking for you. We don't read where he asked for her. We don't read where he said. Maybe Martha just said that because she knew her sister felt real dejected about what happened. And she right away gets up, all excited, and goes to see him. And the other Jewish leaders and all that were there, they thought she was going to go weep at the graveside. So it brought them to see what was going to happen. And everybody sees, even we read that Jesus cries, because they were all felt disappointed in his ministry. They all believed in his ministry. They saw all the miracles. And he understood that this was for the glory of God, that Lazarus was going to die. He had to let him die. He had to wait so he would die. And Jesus does the miraculous resurrection, raising of Lazarus from the dead. We only read about this in John's Gospel as well. So he raises him from the dead. Lazarus, come forth. And the sign of the resurrection, Lazarus was dead. It's the fourth day, and it was a sign that after 3 days and 3 nights in the grave, there's power in the resurrection. Jesus is going to himself. He said, I have power to lay my life down, and I have power to take it back again. Jesus himself is going to do that to himself. He needs that as the last sign for the Jews. That's the last one in John's Gospel. He was building them up to a point of faith. So when they would come, when they would believe the important, the one that mattered. Whether you believe in all the other signs and miracles, the loaves, the fish, the opening of the eyes, whether you believe them or not, the Bible does not say your salvation depends on believing them. I believe them. There's some liberal Christians who might not believe them. But if you don't believe in the 8th sign, I thought you said there were 7. The last sign we're going to read about in the Gospel of John is what I just told you. Jesus is going to rise from the dead. You know, in the creation story in Genesis, God makes everything. We say that 7 days of creation. Why 7? The 8th day is a type of the whole new creation. 8 is a number of new beginnings in the Bible. 8 is the sign of a new thing, a new day. In the case of Jesus, his resurrection will be the 8th one that God says, that's it, we're in a new day now. You believe in my Son, the Messiah. Believe he came back from the dead. In the Gospel, in John 11, there's even a prophecy given by the religious leader by the name of Caiaphas, the high priest. Because the Jewish people are beginning to, the leadership is beginning to have a lot of questions. They're saying if we let him keep doing what he's going to do, all these miracles, we're going to lose our influence and we're going to lose our position in society here. The Romans, right now, they let us run the show in our region. But if Jesus keeps doing this, we're going to lose influence. And Caiaphas says, he prophesies. He doesn't even know he's doing it. And he says, no, it's necessary that one man dies for the nation and the whole nation does not perish. And John, the writer, says he didn't even know it because he was the priest. He prophesied that Christ would die. It was a prophecy. Jesus has been doing miracles and doing many things. And when he raises Lazarus, there's even, we read in John's Gospel, because so much excitement happened over such a wonderful thing that Jesus did, that they even begin to make a plan that maybe they need to kill Lazarus too. What an indictment on us. Isn't that amazing? It's all hospitals all over. Because we want people to get healed. These are Baptist hospitals. VA hospitals right there. Catholic ones. The mission of the church. People wanting to heal others. Except when it's not glorifying to you, then you'd prefer to kill him. That's what happened with Lazarus. Such a wonderful thing. Jesus said, I've showed you so many wonderful works. He said to the Jews, for which one of those are you going to kill me? And remember that? So today you got John 11. I made it to the sign that I saw earlier, which was I passed up this church. It says Logos Community Church. Remember? Remember the teaching I did? In John's Gospel, John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And that word in the Greek is that, Logos, logos, the Word. So, in our little journey on John, we now come to the end of what some refer to as the Book of Signs, that first portion of John's Gospel. And then it's heading up to the big one. And Paul the Apostle says in 1 Corinthians 15 that the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Jesus, it's believing in that by which we are saved. Whether you're Baptists, Catholics, Pentecostals, a lot of Pentecostals, reminds me of the old, this is a lot like Kingsford. I did stop in the Stripes, and I'm not sure the lady understood English very well. I got cigarettes. So God's concerned with humanity. It's not really the tag you wear, your denomination, okay? You gotta believe that. If you do not believe that Jesus died for you, was buried, and the sign rose again, then you will not be saved. You will not be saved now or later. You say, John, should we always be consumed with when we die we're going to go to heaven? No, that should not consume us. But we should be, what we should be consumed about is life now. Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. And if you believe in me now, you're going to walk in life. And everyone that's in sin is walking in darkness, even at this moment. And hell is eternal separation from the presence of God. It's a miserable thing for people to live this life with no hope. Paul says in Ephesians, in the past, we Gentiles, we were without hope. You know, I pray for a lot of the cases. I won't tell the whole case. There's a famous guy a few years ago that from our area, was big in EMTs and paramedics. I didn't know him, but when some stuff happened, they sent him to jail, prison, down this way. He was big in circles in Corpus Christi. That's when he got arrested for a certain thing. All the guys at work were saying, oh, that's so-and-so. I didn't know him, but I remember every day this guy. Because one day I read he died, and I knew why he went to prison. And it didn't say why he died, but it said his wife did not attend the funeral. And I knew he killed himself. And I thought about, he had a career, he had so much going. And he was going to do maybe 10 years in prison. But everything else, the hope is, because he was active in the EMS community and all. And you're there, whatever he was involved with, a lot of teaching and all things that he did, besides the thing that he did, the solicitation of a minor online, which that's why he was convicted for that. But I just had a feeling that from reading it in the paper, they didn't share the whole thing, but I had a feeling that he took his life. When you take hope away, and Paul said, that's what I was quoting, we were at one time, we had no hope and we were without God. And whether you're in this life or in the next, without God, there's nothing. So I don't think we should be so concerned as much when we die we're going to go to heaven, as much as Jesus said to the sister, look, I'm the resurrection and the life, right now. She was looking at the final resurrection, which will take place. She was looking at the hands. He said, look, I'm life. Whoever lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?